Thank you very much, honorable members of the committee. I'm here today as president of Unifor, representing 315,000 workers across this country, including almost 70,000 in the federally regulated private sector, such as air, road, rail, marine, as well as telecommunications and media. I want to thank you sincerely for the opportunity to speak on Bill C-58 and the urgent need for anti-scab legislation in Canada. I also want to sincerely thank MPs of all political parties in the House of Commons who unanimously voted in favor of the legislation at second reading. Now we need to get the job done. Peaceful labour relations in Canada and indeed all over the world rely on the principles of fair and free collective bargaining, principles that have improved the living and working conditions for Canadian workers over many decades. No country has achieved shared progress and prosperity for working people without strong unions and strong collective bargaining laws. Our ability to bargain in a framework that truly respects the voice and power of working people has historically been the only way to raise standards for all workers, both unionized and not. Our union bargains a collective agreement practically every day of the week in Canada, as do all other unions. The majority of those negotiations are concluded without a labour dispute. In rare cases of labour disputes, many employers engage respectfully in the process, including by refusing to use scabs. Of course, both sides engage in hard bargaining. That is, after all, part of the process. But still, we have employers who refuse to respect the rights of workers in Canada, who behave as if workers do not have constitutional rights. And this is what brings me to the important need for C-58 to be adopted as law as quickly as possible. I have a current example to raise with you involving an employer who mostly operates in the federal jurisdiction, but this case involves a small group of workers under a provincial certification. On February 27th, the first day of a perfectly legal strike, Autoport, a subsidiary of the very profitable CN Rail, brought replacement workers across the picket line, aggressively undermining the fundamental right to strike of 239 Unifor members in Nova Scotia. The scabs are still doing the jobs of our members today, including 71-year-old Heather Wildsmith, who has worked at Autoport since 2015. She is a mom and a grandmother with 5 beautiful grandchildren, and she works hard every single day and takes great pride in her work. While at the bargaining table with us and a federal conciliator, CN was hiring and training scabs to do our members' jobs. This is not fair and free collective bargaining. CN is also a member of FEDCO, which has vocally and actively lobbied against not just this legislation, but workers' right to strike in Canada. Suffice it to say, their recommendations that you will likely hear from would render this legislation and indeed collective bargaining rights for workers completely meaningless. And here I want to be very clear. The path proposed by FEDCO leads to chaos. Make no mistake about that. It will force working people and their unions to resort to more direct methods to enforce our collective rights, causing major challenges for employers, for labour peace, for workers, and for governments alike. It will not lead to the labour peace that they suggest that it will. Indeed, the exact opposite. Legislation to ban replacement workers is needed because the use and the threat of the use of scab labour during disputes undermines workers' constitutionally protected right to collectively bargain, undermines our constitutional right to strike, prolongs labour disputes 6 times longer when replacement workers are used, removes the economic pressure that workers have in negotiating with employers, increases conflict and violence on picket lines, jeopardizes workplace safety, destabilizes normalized labor relations, and creates, I would add, poisonous and toxic workplaces after the fact. It also removes incentives for employers to negotiate and settle fair contracts where they should be settled, at a bargaining table. Voting for C-58 is, in Unifor's opinion, the very least elected officials can do, and I thank you again for the full support that you've given this legislation at second reading. It modernizes Canada's labour relations system to reflect the current social and economic context of our times, where increased corporate power and wealth requires an effective counterbalance. Quebec and British Columbia, as you know, have similar laws and have had them for many years. Manitoba has just announced that it will be doing so as well. C-58 must pass and be implemented without delay, not 18 months from now, not a year from now. So thank you very much for hearing from me today, and I'll be very happy to take any questions you may have.
Merci, Madame Payne. Monsieur